So, hi, for those who don't know me, my name is Myles Agnew, and the first thing I want you to do is pull out your mobile phone. Just switch it to silent. This is going to be a mobile Q&A session, so I'm going to ask you some questions, and based on the results, I'll tailor the talk to the results. If you're on an Android device, you can simply scan the QR code. If you're on an Apple device, you'll need to type in that URL into your device, and you should be presented with a question and some answers to click on. So I can see there's half a dozen devices on there already. And the question is, how did you get to WordCamp today if it doesn't show the question? Is anyone seeing a chart? So we've got 10, 16, public transport. I'll send the chart to your devices so you can see the results on your devices. Is that correct? You all can see? For those who aren't participating, around about 40% walked, 20, it's changing quite rapidly. 19% used public transport, and 33% used a car. That's the mechanism I'm going to be using for the following of this presentation to get some results. Disclaimer, and being a good security professional, any actions or activities based on the material that's contained in this presentation is solely your responsibility. This presentation is based on my experience. You should seek advice or accept the risk before taking any action based in this presentation. I'm going to show you some framework, some exploitation of websites, particularly WordPress, and I just want you to be mindful of that. So if you need to contact me, I've got my website, I'm on Twitter, and that's my email address. How it all started for me was back in 2003, I owned 3 brands of hosting companies, and this was presented Friday morning on all of my websites. So this is a Brazilian hacking crew. They found an exploit in my Apache, and they populated this across all of them and deleted all the backups from the server, all the config, everything. So to recover from this took me about 2 days. So I had backups, of course, but they were off-site, and it was in the days of tape. Like 2003, we had tape library, had to wait. It took about 2 days to fully recover from this, and from this point is where I started to become what they call part of the blue team, which is a defensive team in security professionals. So the red team's the offensive, so they're the ones that, develop scripts to exploit stuff, and the blue team are the guys like me who do IDS, IPS, which is intrusion detection system, and intrusion prevention system, firewalls, and the such. So my next question, I'm just going to pop it up now. So my question is, do you believe you have good security practices when you're online? It's moving quite rapidly between yes and no, yes and no. I wanted to keep the answers fairly simple so you could really see. I'll send the chart to you guys. This is where we're at the moment with WordPress. WordPress commands 28% usage of the internet. That's total websites, and the market share is 59.2% of CMS, which is content management systems, and these are all the platforms that are covered. I've provided the source details. So you can see we're growing. WordPress, by my estimates, by the end of the year should hit close to 30% and will have a 60% market share. What does that mean for security? So here's the breakdown in versions. Now I know from version 4.74 and backwards, there's a major exploit that can be taken advantage to control your WordPress install. So based on that, 74 million websites, out of which 5.2 million are exploitable right now. The largest hack was 1.5 million, and it was February this year. And they weren't even trying. And the reason why I say that is because it was quite easily to get the full 7%. The issue is the resources. Now, if anyone knows how to deploy like a command and control system, so you've got to have a server and it deploys the malware or the controlling apps to all the little WordPress installs. For most systems, you could get around 2,500. So you could get 2,500 WordPress blogs talking to one command server. These guys were doing about 10,000, and they still wasn't picked up. And this was the breakdown of hacking groups. So you can see over 350K was just one group. And once one group gets in, the rest all follow because they look for the little tags and the little flags that they leave behind. So I'm going to show you some of that later on in this presentation. This happened earlier this week. Coindash.io. It's a Bitcoin exchange. The investors were sending their Bitcoins to the website. They used the website, the wallet address. WordPress was compromised and the address was changed, siphoned out $7 million worth of Bitcoin. So you think that your little WordPress site has no impact on the world other than buying and selling goods. It has other capabilities that you might not be aware of. So I'm going to hit question 2. And this one I'm just asking, has your WordPress site ever been hacked? It's fairly even, 50-50 sort of result. I'll send you the results. I'm going to show you how they do it. You've seen the presentations on the framework of developing WordPress. I'm going to show you the framework of how to exploit WordPress. These are the two main Linux distributions, Kali, which used to be called Backchat, and Parrot. These distributions have software that does Wi-Fi, database exploitation, Apache exploitation. These systems or these packages enable the hackers to basically load up a program, point it at a URL, and start pulling data from it. WP Scan is probably one of the best tools that I've ever seen, and it's the same thing that the hackers use. I'm actually part of a security group here in Brisbane, and we meet up once a month, and we play this game called Capture the Flag, and WordPress is the primary platform that we put our little flags in. The idea of the game is to capture as many flags as possible, and the team that has the most flags wins. So this scan obviously enumerates user details. Now you can cross-reference this with data as well. So for example, if you were a Dropbox user, a LinkedIn user, I could look at the data from LinkedIn and Dropbox passwords and then enumerate those passwords against your WordPress install if the email address matched. This is the database that, or the term, common vulnerabilities and exposures. This is a whole IT standard. Microsoft have these, Oracle, they're the top 2 companies that have the most exploits at the moment. Everyone has them, so does WordPress. We're lucky enough to only have 30 published so far for 2017, so that averages out once a week. So from a WordPress perspective, you want to be at least patching once a week. Now this is the framework. This is a product called Metasploit. It's made by a company called Rapid7. This is the community edition, but you can also notice that you can get a free Metasploit Metasploit Pro trial as part of the software offering. What this does is takes the CVE and then has some exploit code, which could be Python, Ruby, runs a custom script and confirms that, yes, this thing's vulnerable for that particular code. It also has payloads, so you can make it drop shells, which are basically backdoors, remote access to your WordPress blog. I'm going to show you some how the hackers do it. So this is a .com.au and it's listed right now. They don't even know that this file is on their website. So this is what we call a secret defacement, and they've just simply uploaded a little wolf.gif image. This is a public defacement. There's a whole database of these, so you can't get away with it. Once your site's hacked, there's a database. The hackers share it on a database. Absolutely, and I'll show you at the end of the presentation on how to do that. Malware. Now, the reason why I blocked out the malware is obviously I don't want you to go to that site and get malware. Phishing, PayPal, banks, Australia Post. You know, you get those emails, you click on the link, it looks all legit, hang on. It's not legit. CryptoLock, this is very, very new. This is a sample message. This is a South Korea web hosting company that was CryptoLocked. So it happens to web hosts now. It's now, you thought it was just home users, it's now hitting the enterprise. So what they offered were, and the hosting company actually paid them the amount. They paid them 550 Bitcoin. So that's a considerable amount of money. Yeah, unless you've got a backup. And the thing with backups is how quickly you can restore. Another question. What are we up to? Question 3.
That's not just the website, that's the entire server it sits on. So everything it sits on the same shared server.
So my question here is, do you use HTTPS or SSL on your website? So that's the cryptography that protects you interacting with your website and your website interacting with other websites, backup services. It's really important. So we've got a majority saying yes, which is good. I will send you that. So I'm going to talk about my top 5 strategies to mitigate cyber intrusions. So it's pretty common sense sort of stuff. Secure WordPress, backup, daily vulnerability scans and patching. I actually do it daily. Restrict users and use two-factor authentication, especially if you're in an e-commerce platform. Virus and malware scanning. So I'm going to start with securing WordPress. Obviously enforce HTTPS, which is pretty much mandatory. How many people are using FTP at the moment? Yeah, still a few. Should be losing FTP because it's clear text. So, for example, if you accessed your FTP server from here, you're transmitting your username and password as clear text. Using TLS SSL for WordPress email. What I mean by that is you can use an external mail provider such as SendGrid, MailJet. There's quite a few. I've got no preference. And you can simply use that by downloading a plugin in WordPress and making it use that as your external mail gateway. And that will prevent those sort of backdoor attacks where they try and get your username and password and these sort of intercept stuff. So using a secure method of sending email is really important. Don't use admin or generic accounts like root, admin, those sort of generic. You'd be surprised how many people still use an admin account. I mean, there's a role called administrator, but what you need to do is make sure that your name and your roles are completely separate, and something random helps as well. Change passwords every 90 days, or when a team member leaves. A lot of people don't think, oh, this person, the last 12 months I've had a couple of people leave my team, and changing the passwords was the next day activity and a checklist of their exit strategy once they left. Application firewalls. Now this is a bit techie, and there is a great one in open source called Mod Security, and you can buy commercial rules for that, or you can just use the generic rules that come with it. The commercial rules allow up-to-date sort of stuff, as mentioned in the CVEs earlier. So if you had an exploit for a particular plugin, or part of the core mainly is the ones that come on CVEs, it would negate that. So within like 24, 48 hours, they'd have a bit of code in the web firewall that would stop that. Install 2 themes. I see so many people installing like 20 or 30 themes. Depending on how they're coded, they're actually another surface or a vector of an attack. So you want to try and keep it as a minimum, and one of them from repo. And the reason why you'll hear me harp on about repo, and the reason why I do that is because repo, you have a source of truth, where if you buy off an independent marketplace, you've got no way of, there's no independent checking. When plugins and themes are submitted to repo, WordPress has a team of people looking at these, and they're independently vetted. Keep plugins to a minimum. Plugins and interaction with core WordPress create many surface attacks. There's about 250 plugins that I know of that can basically exploit right now, and you can get admin access to any WordPress site if they're running these particular plugins versions. So it adds the numbers. Yeah, contact me and I'll send you, I'll email you a list. No, it just has to be, it's installed not active. The files just have to be there. So what they do is they hit the file, do an interaction, and then able to upload an exploit. Question 4, cruising along. I'm going to open up for questions and answers at the end, whatever you want to ask. So this question is, how often do you back up your WordPress site? My advice is, if you only post to it once a week, back it up once a week. You can, if you've got storage like Dropbox, Google Drive, you normally get like a few gig free. You could probably back up to that, and you should be able to keep like 4 or 5 weeks, depending on how big your website is. So we've got some hourly. If you're doing e-commerce, hourly is the best way, because you've got to obviously roll back with transactions and stuff. So yeah, hourly is really good. So we've got, good coverage. Only a small percent that never back up, which is awesome. I'll send the results to you guys. You can have a look. So backup WordPress. Decide on a retention policy, daily, weekly, monthly. Ensure when storing off server. So this means totally off server. Like I mentioned earlier, how I had on server backups and then off server. On server backups just allow me a quicker time to recover. The off server ones take a little bit longer to get hold of and then transmit across, whether it be Amazon, S3, Dropbox, Google Drive. You've got to factor in that transmission. So make sure that you compress them so it's a lot quicker. Antivirus scanning, I use a commercial product, so I won't mention that. Permission isolated. And what I mean by that is, when you send the backup to Amazon, you have a little script that 15 minutes and cancels the user that accessed or the token to drop that file in. So you don't want anyone to be able to modify that file once it's there. So it's really isolating that. A lot of backup systems, if you're using some of the commercial ones, will do that. But if you're just using the ones that are provided with your hosting service, you need to make a little script or go to GitHub and you'll find one that will do that. Test backup. There's so many people I know that don't test their backups. At least monthly or quarterly is probably the best option for that. Got another question. question 5. So this is about the WordPress version. So as I mentioned earlier, I know that version 4.74 and below has an excellent exploit. And once you know that, you're able to compensate with security measures that stop that. So we've got roughly about 60% on 4.8, which is the current. I'll send you that. This is the bane of all IT security professionals. Daily vulnerability scans and patching. People just don't get it. It's really important. A lot of people put in change freezes because they're doing, a blog update, or they're doing some sort of marketing campaign with Facebook, Google Ads. It's really important to make sure that you get patching done at a time where your website's at its lowest load. So I use Patchman. It's a service where you can connect all your servers in, and it presents a dash, and it tells you all the accounts and all the software installed under those accounts and what vulnerabilities they have. You can get 3 free servers out of it, and it'll show you like the top 5 vulnerabilities, and then after that you've got to pay. Managing WordPress, I use Manage WP or Infinite WP to update all the core and plugins. So I do that daily, run that as an automated job, have a report, and at the end of the day you can see where you're at with your blogs. WP scan, so you can see that I use different technologies to get a result to verify that the CVEs aren't there. I use them also to look at server configuration, like directories that are available and you can list and all that sort of stuff. And WordFence for file changes and uploads. So if someone uploads a particular file and it modifies a plugin or a theme, WordFence will generate an alert. Cool. Down to my last question. It's about credit cards. Everyone loves credit cards. So do the hackers. So we've got about 40% saying yes, they accept. I'm going to dig a bit deeper on that. So restrict users and use TwoFactor. Does anyone here have a PayPal account? Yeah, quite a few people. Do you use TwoFactor? Yeah, small majority. So you can enable TwoFactor. With PayPal, it's just an SMS. With Stripe, it's actually an app. So you use the Google Authentication app. If you're an app developer, come talk to me. I'll show you an open source platform called Fido that you can use to help secure your application. Least privilege principle. That means you don't give every user admin rights. So if you've got someone that just contributes articles, you put them as a contributor. Cool. So this is what I use for virus and malware detection. Linux malware detection, and that can pass off hash files to ClamAV. So these are free open source. I also have a commercial antivirus on the backups, but this is what I use on server. Some helpful hacked websites history, zone-h.org. So you can type in a URL and see, I think it goes back to like 1999. Hack credentials, so when I was talking about LinkedIn, Dropbox, they're in there. Just type your email address in and it'll say, hey, we've noticed your credentials on this site. Ashley Madison, a few other websites are on there as well. As far as hardening WordPress, that's the guide that I would recommend. security response, a lot of people don't know this stuff, but these are the guys or the agencies that can really help you out when things turn bad. So check out their websites. All of them provide like notification services, such as the CVE, just to tell you that there's exploits available. If you have an incident and it's in Australia and on Australian equipment, report it. It helps. So I'm going to open up for questions. Yep.
I just wanted to ask you the iThemes.
iThemes. Yeah, I am aware of the iThemes security plugin. I don't use it, so I don't really have an opinion.
Oh, okay, so it's not that you don't like it, it's just that you haven't
I don't have an opinion.
used it?
Yeah.
Here we go.
Yeah.
Do you think there's a need for plugins in WordPress to make it secure? If you've got the right security, should WordPress be secure enough? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
If you've got other compensating measures such as log retention and log filtering, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that should be fine. Yep. Cool. That's a product called a seam, and most small businesses wouldn't have the budget for that. It's a real-time monitoring system, so what it does is collect the logs in real time, and it can generate, actually a lot of the seams have machine learning now, so they can say, oh, this IP has traversed this network and has dropped this file. That sort of technology is out there, but it's seven figures, way beyond the what we have. The best advice I can give you is have all your logs shipped off the server. So have a job running every hour, picking up the logs and moving it into a secure location, and then using a log tool to go through it. But at real time, you're not going to get that. Yep. Hey, Ben.
Hi. My question is about, say, 4.8 right now.
Yep.
What I've seen in the past where 4.8 comes out or whatever, is a small bug,
Mhm.
issue,
Mhm.
security-wise.
Yep.
Quite like the widget vulnerability right now.
Yep.
And so, been in a situation where we're at 4.75.
Yep.
And then wait until we get to 4.81. Do you have any comments on that?
If you're using a web application firewall and having compensating controls, yeah, most of this stuff won't happen to you if you follow exactly majority of what I said. You're going to be one of the top 5% that are not going to have any issues. And if you use WordPress.com as a hosted service, it's covered. They automatically do all this for you. They update. And you could use a managed provider such as the sponsors here today. Yep. 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 Absolutely. That is the tool that I use as a seam. To get it real time is very expensive. But yeah, if you were just doing one server and wanted a base underline, yeah, Splunk will do that for you. And I'm quite happy to share you how I do that right now. So, yeah, cool. Hey.
Hey, I know it's very easy to say, don't give users.
Absolutely. Yep.
Register on your WordPress site.
Yep.
Say you run an e-commerce site.
Mhm.
Give them an account.
Yep.
It's relevant only very recently for the plugin WangGuard, works name for a plugin, also known as log hunter.
Mm-hmm.
and click delete them.
Yep. Yep.
Do you see a need for this service like that, or another plugin like that to come in and delete these registered users?
Probably prevention's better. So there's, if you go to GitHub, if you actually search under my name, I've got a repo of disposable emails. That's the first thing. If you get rid of those, they're the main ones that hackers use. Reputation, I guess, is the other thing. I use a product called MaxMind for e-commerce, and what it does is authenticate the user details on a database with an IP location and does a couple other things based on their credit card. So it does all that. It does it end-to-end solution. But if they haven't made a transaction, you obviously haven't got that data.
But you still have those guest users sign up willy-nilly? Like give them a name and their...
Yeah, for sure. They usually use like Yahoo, Hotmail, all those sort of freebies, and basically just got to run a purge. The best way is when you send them the first initial email. If that gets a bounce back, then obviously have a hook into your e-commerce platform to remove them.
Just for that next one, I presume you talk about GOOP.
Yep. Using the database. So MaxMind is a paid subscription service, and they correlate data and aggregate, and they produce it in an API, which means you can plug it into WordPress or any other billing platform, and it'll help.
What I was looking at is, I had my own server on there, and I was looking at locking a lot of things down to just say Australia only.
Absolutely. If you don't export out of Australia, then why would you want to give access outside?
The only problem that you've got to be careful of is that it can affect your Google ratings. I've actually seen that happen, that India can't see your website. Google will, if you're doing Google AdWords, you'll get penalised, and I've actually had that happen on site.
Okay.
So I guess the key thing, what I'm suggesting here, is maybe locking down the WP admin, any login, just purely to Australia.
Yep. Or use TwoFactor. Yeah.
Yeah, well that as well. But as far as I'm concerned, if locking the admin down from those countries that typically target.
Yep. For sure. That's a good strategy. Yeah. Absolutely.
You can handle the user agent. You could deal with the user agent first with Google Bot and Appbot.
Yep. Cool. Yeah. Yep. Is that it? Cool. Yes, Google hosts them as well. Where are you from? Gold Coast. Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Shoot me an email. Talk to me at tonight's event. I'll let you know. QUT also do them as well. No questions? Cool. Arky.
I probably don't need a microphone, to be honest. I'm quite loud. This is probably a question more for the benefit of the other people here.
Yep.
Why is it important to do virus scans on your backup files that you're exporting out?
So, I use Amazon and Dropbox and my own server. So I have a 3-tier system. It's a little bit excessive. But what you want to do is make sure you're not sending backups to your, not sending viruses to your backups, because there's nothing worse than restoring a virus. And it also protects the integrity. So that little thing that I was saying where you turn off the privileges on the backup so they can't be rewritten over the top of, that's to stop CryptoLocker and other accesses to that. So the only way they could get it is read it. And and I separate it by 2 different users. So much like accounts have accounts payable and accounts receivable, I have a backup writable and a backup readable. So the readable is obviously the restore, and the writable is the backup. Cool.
Testing your backups.
Yep.
How do you actually test them?
So I have a development server, and I just deploy on that. So I restore the accounts on that, and then just use a host file put all the domain names in the host file and check that way. So I probably test, I've got quite a few domains. I've got about 212. I probably test 20 or 30 every month. So I don't do the whole lot. But yeah, I get a report every day saying all these sites backed up or this site failed. If it's failed, I actually go back and manually run it. I could. I just haven't got around to it. Yep.
I obscure my login page.
Yeah, cool. That's just perfectly.
The ones I've used, I keep seeing on support forums that there's ways around it, and I'm just wondering if you've got a great way to hide the login page.
HT access. You can put another password or a totally different way of authenticating on that, and that's done from the server level. Yeah.
How do I learn to do that?
Yeah. Shoot me an email. I've got a whole book about it. Yeah. How are we doing for time? Cool. Okay. Yep. Absolutely. Yep. So my advice to the Novus people is to go to service providers like WP Engine, Kinetics, or WordPress.com. Make them deal with it rather than you. Cool. Awesome. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Myles.
Cheers. Thank you very much.
That's for you.
No worries. Thank you.